Well, hello everyone. Excuse me. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Stephen Chase. I'm with World Education Services. We're delighted to have you join us for our session. Today's session is going to be great. Our presenter, Nicole, is a LinkedIn expert, also in the work that she does as a career coach working at Sheridan College. We have today people joining us from a number of cities across the U.S., across Canada, and from around the world, so welcome to you all. I'm excited because I've seen the presentation that Nicole has in store for us, and I consider myself a little bit of a savvy with LinkedIn myself, and two of the things that were in her presentation I've already implemented and have helped me in terms of my own personal account, but also in the work that I do with World Education Services from a professional perspective as well. Nicole is a career support specialist at the Faculty of Continuing and Professional Studies at Sheridan College, and you can all see her profile there, but as you get a chance to take a look at that, I did want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn before we turn it over to Nicole. Also, you can probably have seen her profile and intro leading up to the event. I'll put up today's agenda while I talk a little bit about LinkedIn, just to set the stage for Nicole, although she's got the really good content. LinkedIn is a very powerful career-building tool, and in fact, how I came to learn of Nicole being so well-versed in it was through LinkedIn. She actually shared a previous bit of work she had done around helping people to understand LinkedIn better, and we're connected on LinkedIn, so I had the opportunity to see it. We've actually never met in person, I don't think, Nicole, but hopefully we will in the not-too-distant future. So I reached out to her based on that example she had provided, and that's how we landed to here today. So that's an example of how LinkedIn can create opportunities. I can also say from a personal perspective, from a career developmental side, I've actually had employment opportunities presented to me from my people looking at my LinkedIn profile, and the opportunities were actually an upward move, a higher level, so it's a good opportunity, not just any career opportunity that can come from really excelling with a LinkedIn profile. From a professional side, I've done business deals thanks in large part due to the information that LinkedIn provides and being able to connect with people. In fact, with people I've never met in person, and with leading companies in both the U.S. and Canada. So I can't understate the value of putting in some time and effort when it comes to LinkedIn. And in Canada and the U.S., LinkedIn is really widely used, and it's worth the time and effort, both from that personal and from the career development and professional side. So because it can provide you with great insights into who you're connecting with. Nicole works at Sheridan College, which is just west of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. For those of you that are in Canada or coming to Canada, I would highly, in Ontario or coming to Canada in that region, I would highly suggest you check out the school. Sheridan Continuing and Professional Studies is one of the largest providers of continuing education programming in Ontario. It's designed for career-oriented professionals. Sheridan's interdisciplinary portfolio includes programs in arts, media and culture, accounting and finance, media and design, business, engineering sciences, information technology, language, communication and culture, and a very highly regarded government-funded, which, Nicole, you can clarify if this is in fact the case. That means it's for free, anyone to access. That is a language and occupational training program for newcomers to Canada. To learn more about Sheridan's continuing professional studies courses, I will put the link into the chat for you. One moment. There you are. So after we turn it over to Nicole, I'm just going to reconnect and talk about some interesting things that we're working on in the U.S. around a research project and some information. All right. And I've worked in the immigrant service sector for many years and know many professionals that work in the sector. And I am regularly impressed by the innovative and high quality and forward-thinking work that Nicole is doing at Sheridan College. And I know this because she shares this information on LinkedIn, and her and I are connected, which we both use LinkedIn regularly, so I have the opportunity to see the great work that she's doing. And so that's yet another example of why LinkedIn is a very, very valuable tool. So with that, Nicole, I will turn it over to you. You should now be the presenter. I will mute myself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephen, for that introduction. Yes, I will actually show some information with respect to the continuing and professional studies. You'll notice here on our website we do have a specific area for newcomers to Canada. We have a funded program through Citizenship and Immigration Canada. We provide English language training programs. Most of them are designed to help you integrate into the workforce, so with the outcome to get you ready to move forward and secure work and have the toolkit that's necessary in order to do that. We do have our Enhanced Language Training Program, which is ELT. That's the program that I am affiliated with. It is a 10-week in-class instructional. We have 3 instructors that are available for that, and it is also enhanced with job placement. Now, in most cases, it is unpaid, but it is a great avenue to get a great venue for people to get an opportunity to get some skills and some references in their fields. We do have offices in Oakville, Mississauga, and Brampton. We do also have language instruction to newcomers to Canada and also occupational specific language training programs. So that's just a brief introduction. You can go to sheridancollege.ca and look at the continuing education and professional studies section to find us there. Alternatively, you can locate me and connect with me. I am on Twitter at Nicole Darliston. I am also on LinkedIn, and you can do a search for Nicole Darliston. You'll find me there. Last night I changed my status to a lion, so that is a terminology for LinkedIn Open Networkers. So if anyone wants to connect with me, they can go there and put in my email address, which is in the profile, and you'll be connected with me automatically, and you'll be able to see my feeds in the future. So let's begin. Okay. So the presentation today is called LinkedIn for Success. I have had...
Nicole, let me chime in here. Please make sure you share your desktop, otherwise we won't be able to see your PowerPoint.
Oh, I thought we did that earlier. Oh, sorry, let's do that. Okay. Oh, yes, there we go.
Wonderful.
Sorry about that, everybody. I didn't realize you weren't seeing what I had up there. So this is the Sheridan landing page. So you can reach that at sheridancollege.ca, and there you can find further information on our language studies here at 3 locations in the Peel region and Halton regions of Ontario. Okay. I have always had a love for acquiring new information and knowledge. I've been considered a resource junkie, and I love to share my passion. I learned firsthand that passion is contagious, and living with intention, integrity, and paying it forward, and trusting in the rule of reciprocity will create success professionally and personally. In 2006, I joined LinkedIn. My initial experience with LinkedIn, I was a little intimidated. It took me a considerable amount of time to get that first 250 connections. That in part due to there were so few people that were familiar with LinkedIn at that time. It was kind of like the Google Plus launch a few years back. And I basically had to contact my connections and basically sell them on why they wanted to get involved with LinkedIn. But once I got beyond that 250 connections mark, I found that it became much easier. It was sort of a threshold that I surpassed that made me regarded as somebody worth knowing. So become much more readily available, pretty much 100% Anyone that I wanted to send an invitation to, I would be getting a positive response back and making a connection and moving forward the relationship from there. So from that, it became a lot less, the time that I was using for actually making connections decreased. People began looking for me. And so today, I have had the privilege of being acknowledged as being one of the top 1% connected individuals on LinkedIn. I have 2,000 plus connections. And as of yesterday, I have changed my status to Lion, which will increase my growth in terms of making connections. Now, there was a specific reason why I decided to do that. It wasn't just because of this presentation. There are some challenges with becoming an open networker in that it's very hard to have a very strong relationship with the people that you're connecting with. So one of the new features that's just come online with LinkedIn is that you have the ability to block individuals once they're connected to you, and also change your settings for feeds so you don't have to see the feeds of 2,000 plus individuals. So that was one of my considerations for looking at becoming a Lion on LinkedIn. So that's just kind of giving a little bit of recent history in terms of, this. Okay. So my goals today, there's a few. So one of the areas is I want you to understand what the success factors will be for you achieving your goals. For the purpose of this presentation, I am looking at as individuals who are making a career transition or individuals who are actively looking for work, whether that's passive or active. I'm not going to be getting into a lot of information with respect to people who are establishing their businesses and want to grow their businesses on LinkedIn, because that's also a large piece of what the capabilities of LinkedIn are. And there's a number of entrepreneurs that are using LinkedIn at this time to help them with growing a business and creating a brand. I will be talking to you about understanding how to create an all-star profile on LinkedIn and building a network. So this is going to relate to brand identity and doing some really internal looking inwards to really see what you have to offer. What's in it for business in terms of having an engagement with you and potentially speaking to you about opportunities available now or in the future. It's really important in LinkedIn that you are communicating the return on your benefits with the business community and having the correct keywords. So we're going to be getting into that through the presentation. I'm also going to introduce you to some other social applications that are online that will help you organize your efforts, connect, and increase the number of people coming to your profile, showcasing your work, and also conducting basic research and searches online. So that's the agenda for today. Okay. I wanted to begin with two quotes from A. Maslow. One I would like you to think about is, what is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. If you want to help another human being, you must put your attention on what can be improved rather than what is wrong. So what I want you to think about is what you're going to learn today with respect to LinkedIn can actually change your life because you are going to be in a social setting where you're going to be exposed to a vast number of information that you have to synthesize, new ideas from people, opportunities that are going to be presented to you that may be out of line with what you have been considering for yourself. But might be good moves for yourself. So it's really important that you really are forward-focused and that you have some specific plans in place for yourself. Targets are really important because they keep you accountable. So some of the targets we might be talking about might pertain to how much time you're going to spend online using LinkedIn. There's figures out there related to how much time people spend online, and then specifically on LinkedIn, and 47% of the people on LinkedIn only spend around 2 hours a week. So what you can understand is you can still have a presence with not necessarily using the tool and keeping it open, on a 24/7 basis. But you do need to set goals for you, because the thing is with LinkedIn is if you're not active on a regular basis, you'll see your ranking drop very, very quickly. So one of the things that has to be in your plan is that you are doing a number of activity updates, that you're making changes to your profile, that you're engaged in groups, this kind of thing. Any kind of activity you do on LinkedIn is actually going to help your ranking, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. One of the other things to consider is, be realistic with yourself. For many people, using LinkedIn might be a new endeavor. You may be not used to the technology. You may be a little reluctant to kind of put your life out there online. But one of the things that you need to consider is that pretty much 100% of jobs that are posted out there, particularly in the corporate area, are actually posted on LinkedIn, or there'll be recruiters using LinkedIn to identify the most appropriate person. The next piece is that you have the right mindset, that you are being positive, that any information that you're sharing online is showing the right attitude, that you know and you have an idea of how you want to present yourself. If you want to present yourself as a coach, then your content should be talking about coaching activities and helping people, that kind of thing, and not kind of getting into a negative space, because that's part of your brand, right? So you want to think about what your brand is and make sure that any activities you're doing is aligned with that particular brand. The other thing is we're going to be talking about, the lifelong learning as it relates to being here in Canada. It's basically a value that you have to instill in yourself. And we're not necessarily talking about formal learning in an educational institution like here on Sheridan College. Is learning in a whole number of different ways, and you can actually make some connections online with people that can help mentor you and guide you, or share information that's going to be pertinent for you moving ahead in your fields. Okay, so here's some statistics. If you have been looking at LinkedIn, you'll be pretty familiar with it's surpassed 238 million members. It's in 200 countries worldwide. Executives from all the major Fortune 500 companies are members. And I have here the 90% figure, but it's probably closer to 100% now in terms of companies using LinkedIn for their talent solutions. Okay, so I'm just going to pass the slide. Okay. Okay. Okay, so one of the things is what you think about, you bring about. So whenever you're going onto LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you have a plan in place and that you know who your target is going to be. So if your objective is to enhance or increase your connections with people on LinkedIn, you want to focus on that particular activity. One of the things with LinkedIn is the tendency is you can get off track and spend a significant amount of time not necessarily meeting your goals and making the connections that are going to help you. So it's really important that you have a good understanding of what it is you're wanting and what your particular call of action is. And we're going to talk about that a little bit further along, so that you are, being able to do a brand and create a good headline. So, Okay. One of the important things is that we think about what areas of influence we might have. You right now may have family members that are closely connected to you. You have people that you've had business opportunities with presently and in the past. So it's important when you're first starting out with LinkedIn that you're connecting with those individuals. And you know, this can be done very easily, you know, through doing either a name search or actually you know, uploading your connections from your Outlook, from your Yahoo accounts, from your Gmail accounts. Actually, LinkedIn has made that very easy now in terms of assembling all the information and sending out invitations throughout your network. So that would be one of the first things that you'd want to do. And because LinkedIn is you know, it's getting much more easy to work with. You know, as an individual, there is actually a lot of prompts that prompt you to do these types of things as you're moving along. Okay. Okay. So some of the important things to keep in mind is one, that you are paying it forward. When I talk about that, I'm talking about Stephen had talked a little bit earlier about my broadcasts on LinkedIn, and that he follows me. One of the strategies that I do is I have made it known out within my network that if there's an event going on and they want to distribute that information through the network, that I am willing to do that on their behalf. So this is one of the things is I tend to be a hub for information. So you know, I benefit from that because I am providing that service out into the world. So what happens is when I'm doing that, people are beginning to see that I'm producing something of value, and it didn't cost me anything and did not, you know, involve significant time from my side. And it builds that trust relationship. So what happens is generally with the rule of reciprocity is that those individuals will likely, you know, if you approach them for a favor later on, they're probably more engaged with you or more likely to help you. I do this level of engagement quite regularly with our students when they graduate the program here and they move on to move into the working world. We would normally approach our alumni to participate, you know, come back to the classroom as a speaker on a particular subject matter or content topic as an expert, or, you know, conduct information interviews or mini mentorships, this kind of thing. So the LinkedIn tends to be the sphere where these kind of activities and connections and engagements happen. And this is how the world has changed, is most businesses now are engaging through social settings, okay, online, because the world moves so quickly. It can be very challenging, as you know, in business to coordinate face-to-face meetings, that kind of thing. So this is why with LinkedIn it's become such a significant contributor to people finding jobs and people sharing information and building partnerships and that kind of thing. Okay, so the important things to learn is you need to join and participate, make that commitment. You need to watch and learn. So you're going to see all sorts of information and material passed online. The more groups you're involved with, the more people you're connected with and companies you follow, you're going to have more and more information coming your way. It's going to generate new ideas. You're going to pursue new paths. You're going to make new connections from earlier connections, and it kind of just snowballs. So you've got to kind of have trust in, if you're being active a little bit every day, that you'll begin to see things happening for yourself. The other thing is that it's really important that you promote others, okay? This is kind of like when you're on Facebook and you're liking someone. What you have to realize is when you like or you comment on LinkedIn, the individuals can see that, and also the people that are in your secondary connections will also be able to see you liking. So it actually is another way to drive people back to your profile as well while you're promoting somebody else. So there's kind of that win-win scenario happening. The other thing is that you are sharing, and that again can be just sharing articles that maybe other people have posted, or now you can actually post your own content, kind of like a news feed or an article online. Okay. So this infographic right here is from a site called Wordle. A number of people will use this to identify keyword frequency so that you can kind of determine what is the most important keyword. So if you go to Wordle, you can actually copy and paste job postings and run a scan, and it will tell you what are the most prevalent keywords that are coming up. I didn't specifically put a slide for Wordle because it's not my favorite. As a career counselor, my preference is when you're trying to find out what are the keywords for your field, I really like to go back to the old-fashioned method, print out a number of job postings, take a really good sample, go in there with a highlighter and highlight what you do have, so what sticks out for you in terms of what the requirements of the job, the soft skills, the hard technical skills that you have. Highlight those, and then the ones that they're asking for, and then go in with another highlighter and look at where you're at right now, because then you end up with a plan of action. You know where you are, how you're meeting the requirements of a particular job, but you also have a plan in place where you're lacking particular skills that you can maybe pursue later on. So SEO is basically search engine optimization. It's an acronym. And what it is the opportunity or the outcome you're trying to achieve is you want to get your ranking or your SEO as high as possible, because that really dictates how many people are seeing you and how visible you are on the internet. So most of this goes through Google, okay? So with LinkedIn, it's really important, and I'm going to get into more specifics with some examples in a short succession. How you actually integrate keywords and into your LinkedIn, and where within LinkedIn, because it's not the frequency of keywords that is important only in your profile. It is also where within your profile that you have that information. Also, being familiar with common terminology is really important as well. So to give you an example, in your job descriptions, you'll have you would put your job title. But if you have a very unusual job title like myself, Career Support Specialist, which I would say is a pretty uncommon term that wouldn't come up in a search, what I would suggest is you put in parentheses or brackets some other more regularly used terminology for your particular job title. So in my case, and I'll take you to my profile a little later on, but I've put recruiter/trainer/career coach because in SEO ranking on LinkedIn, job title carries a lot of weight. So it's really important that your job titles are common and regularly searched titles. And if that's not the case, you have to look at what is the commonly used terms that are used for your particular job. Okay. The other thing is there is opportunity for you to increase your social engagement and your ranking by using external sites to LinkedIn. So there are areas on LinkedIn where you can, put your other URLs or website information or links to other applications that, show your work or your online portfolio, that kind of thing. So the more linkages there are that way, the better your ranking will be. And then also what I had mentioned earlier with the daily practice being significant to your ranking on LinkedIn. One of the things that you want to try to do as you're building your network is you don't necessarily want to look at, what's in it for me. You want to shift your attitude in terms of how can I help other people. So one of the things that I suggest is you look at it, in terms of closed and open triangles. So basically, if you know two people, so you have, in this instance, you have like I have had a connection who recently moved from Latin America, and then I also, through discussions, found out, through a connection that there was another company looking specifically for someone with logistics background that was Spanish speaking. I can close that triangle by making an introduction. So, what your objective is, if you can try to put in part of your goals, is to try and close triangles. Once in a while, you'll find that down the road, it will really come and help you. I know in this instance, when I closed this particular triangle, I then got a very close relationship with a particular company because I made the introduction, and then more job opportunities became available, which I could pass on to my clients and make recommendations. So really important to look at the concept of closing triangles. Just some basic housekeeping things. One of the most important mistakes, significant mistakes people make, is not turning off notifications on LinkedIn. So you can go into your settings. I can show you a little bit later on how to do that. But there's also now with LinkedIn, it does prompt you when you go in to update your profile or edit your profile. You'll see on the right-hand side column, there'll be a little thing telling you whether your notifications are on or off. So that's very helpful. It helps guard from making mistakes, because if you have your notifications on, if you're just changing a word or a spelling mistake and then you press save, as soon as you press save, that's going to be broadcast right out throughout your network. So it's really important, if you remember one thing as a takeaway, that you turn off your notifications. Okay. So just to briefly go through some do's and don'ts. With LinkedIn, it's really important that you are joining groups. I don't have the figure on hand, but I think you can join up to about 50 groups, so it's pretty extensive. But one of the things I'd recommend is to start with a few, so you can get very familiar with that culture of the group and who's involved, that kind of thing. The other thing when it comes to choosing groups is you might want to target some companies that are that you're interested in, and look at people who hold similar job roles in those companies. Go to their profiles and then look to see what groups they're involved with. Okay, so try to be strategic in terms of joining groups. Don't just do a search for, logistic manager groups and pick something that doesn't originate local to where you reside. Find ones that have people as members that you want to connect with. Because one of the things that's the advantage, if you are in a group, you're not using your limited in-mail. For this presentation, I'm talking about the free, not premium account for LinkedIn. So one of the things is you are very limited in terms of in-mail. So these are kind of free mails that you can send out without having to have the contact information of the person who's going to receive the message. It's very limited. I think it's around 10 people. So you're going to actually exceed that number very, very quickly. Most of us want to grow our LinkedIn profiles more than this, so joining groups is one of the best ways to do it, because you can simply say you know this person through the group and the invitation will be sent. The other thing is, if you are doing invitations, that you customize those invitations. It doesn't have to be a lot of information, but you may want to congratulate them on a post that they did, or that you really liked their comment that they had made on a particular forum or group. Really important that you do a little bit of customization so that people feel like you've given a little bit of thought, and you're not just kind of doing mass broadcasts to people out on LinkedIn. Okay. One of the things that I do is I look at connections in terms of short-term and long-term. So I remember back in the day when we had Rolodex contacts that you could go through, and so you had a lot of different business cards, and you could, obviously connect with people, when the need arose. I do that. Now you'll hear people argue against that, but I find in my role where I have clientele that are coming from a very broad, range of occupations coming through our programs, this is the best way to do that, because if I have someone coming in and they say they're a stress engineer, and I've never had a stress engineer come in and work with them, I already have companies that specifically, deal with that particular skill subset already in my connection. So that's one of the reasons why I try to grow a bit larger, so that I'm not having to do, a real runaround to try and make these connections work with my own schedule versus the other way around. Okay, so here is a reference for you. You'll have opportunity to have these slides later, but this is talking about the different types of headings that you can use to enhance your profile on LinkedIn. So as you see, obviously, your name. Your headline is one of the most significant areas for ranking. I'm going to show you some examples of how to change that, because you need to go in there and change the default setting, because it will default specifically to your most recent position. So I'll show you a little later. There's an individual named Jay-Z who was one of my former students, and hers was defaulting to student. And one of the things is, when someone's searching you, they see your headline and your photo first. So if they see something like student and they're actually looking for people to interview, they probably will pass you over simply because their belief would be you're not available, that your focus is on your educational training. So it's really important that you change that professional headline, and the next slide will let you know how many characters you have at your disposal for these particular sections. It's good to know that as well, so that you're able to put as many keywords as possible into your LinkedIn. Okay, so you see there's location, industry, your contact information. Many people will put this in their summary section for ease, okay, although there is a separate contact area. Your chronological experience, very similar to what you might have on your resume, okay? And then there's all these other categories. So recommendations, really important that you seek out recommendations and endorsements. And if you were going to pursue one or the other, better to go with the recommendations because they're given a lot more credibility simply because somebody has to sit down and specifically write out what they know about you and spend the time doing that and composing that. So both are good, but recommendations are necessary. Actually, even with LinkedIn, to have a complete LinkedIn profile, you do have to have a minimum of, let's see, I think it is 3 connections. Sorry, not connections, recommendations. Okay, so move to the next slide. Okay. So this is another reference for yourselves, the number of characters that are available. One of the things I see people not doing is I see that they're, I'll just, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Anyways, if you look at number 3, summary, you have a 2,000 character limit. I see a lot of people not really maximizing on that. Your summary is primary space, okay? Think of it as your ad. And if you're not using all the characters, you're really missing out on an opportunity to bring people to your profile, okay? Okay, so we're going to look at an example, a number of examples of LinkedIn profiles that are very good. So if you would notice right here, okay, Kenzel, okay, she leaves a really great impression for visitors. One of the things is she does have a premium account, and just to differentiate between the premium account and the free account is the premium accounts you do have a lot more opportunity to use InMail, but there are other ways to make those send those introduction requests without having InMail. So that's not such a significant thing. One of the significant things with this, though, is that if you look at the header, and not so much in this example, but in some other examples, is the visual impression that you're getting when you're looking at her information is very positive. You actually have the ability to put landscape photographs or things, behind your image to make it more appealing. You'll notice here that she has a very professional photo, okay? She's obviously had it professionally prepared, okay? She's wearing a power color, and I'm sure that was not without thinking about. It's free of distractions. It's a white background. There's no one else in that picture. So it's very easy to see her expression. First impression, she seems like a very friendly, approachable person. The next
Nicole,
piece here is, yep.
Sorry, Nicole, I just wanted to mention, I forgot to say something in the intro about, since there's about 20 minutes left in the formal side of the presentation, yep. I just wanted to say that if anyone has any questions and we use that full time with the presentation, I'll be around to answer some questions, and I think you might be as well. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
If after 2 you have any questions, feel free, and then I'll chime back in shortly before 2 to mention something else that I forgot as well. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So if you look here, she has a well-written summary. Now, she's not using the 2,000 characters, but it's very easy to acquire an understanding of, who she is as an individual, what she has to offer an organization, and, what are some of her, what can she attribute to herself in terms of, how she benefited the company. If we're looking here, she's talking about she's an HR professional, so she's owned her occupation. With a true passion for remarkable achievement, she has 10 years of HR and OD consulting and leadership experience, so she's identifying her specialty areas, and then she's also identifying her education. So she has her MBA degree from the Rotman School of Management. Her key expertise areas include, but are not limited to, organizational development, talent management, succession planning, okay? And then she goes on to talk about, some of the work that she had brought together and could take credit for. So it is a very well-written, well-composed summary. If you notice later on, okay, she has her full profile in terms of she does have more than 3 prior employment companies there, so that's one of the goals that you need to have is in order to get a full, complete profile, you have to have experience going back for 3 former positions. So here, she's using the very similar format, okay? And she's out talking about her key responsibilities, okay? And then what you see here is also she has recommendations under each of these particular jobs, okay, which is quite significant, okay, for getting that ranking. So there we go there, okay. Now, she never changed this particular area at the top. So with her, when she's it says basically director, talent management, organizational development at Showbiz. She does have an opportunity to put some other information in there. So maybe she could talk about, that she is as a consulting as a keyword, her succession planning, that kind of thing. She has an opportunity there to add some keywords, which will increase her ranking there. So we're going to jump back to the next example quickly. Okay. This is another example, Tim Thurgold. Okay, so again, he message appearance is a little bit different. I'll just launch this and we'll look at it really quickly. I really like the way he has it because he actually is making use of the 2,000 characters, and you'll see in a minute. So if you look at his headline, he's actually identifying a number of jobs, so IT architect, sales engineer, and project manager. So if a recruiter is doing a search for like an IT architect, and that's the keyword, it's going to come back high in the ranking because of its positioning there. Under his name. Also, if you're just doing a general search, you're going to see his picture and that information. So, it's easy for us to get an understanding of what his expertise areas are. Okay. So this is his summary. Okay. So like Kanzel, he did a brief introduction about himself, but then he organized it into subheadings. So one of the areas, leading projects and teams, and then he's talking about the outcomes, or what he did to leverage and add value to the organization. So specific accomplishment statements, which are very effective in terms of leaving a very positive impression. So if you look there, he has other headings: sales and technical leadership, business and proposal development, that kind of thing. He's using specific figures where appropriate, so very good profile example. Okay, similarly, his format style throughout is very good. Now, one of the things to keep in mind when you're doing this is there is an opportunity for you to download LinkedIn Resume, which is an application you can download onto your laptop, and then when you launch that, it will actually pull out this into a resume, and they have 20 plus templates that you can use that are stylistically very different. So it's a nice thing to play with, if you choose to do that and you haven't actually written your resume, but you're working on your LinkedIn profile. You don't have to kind of go through that process twice, and it saves it as a PDF document that you can distribute wherever you like. So that's a good new feature available through LinkedIn. Okay. The other thing he's doing here is he is showing some other images in terms of some expos that he would participated in. So you have an opportunity to show work samples in LinkedIn. For myself, I find the easiest way of uploading the information through LinkedIn is create yourself a Google account. And then you would upload your documents there, and then you can create a link. And I find that you encounter fewer incompatibility issues with the technologies if you do it that way. Alternatively, you can go and do a search on LinkedIn and find out what are the compatible apps that LinkedIn recognizes in terms of uploading information. So, okay. I'm not going to do much of an explanation on this particular one, but what you can see is, for people who are entrepreneurs and you're wanting to promote a business, okay, this gentleman here did a very good job of showing some of the interiors that he designed. So very visually appealing. They launched to his particular sites. Okay, so if someone was visiting this site, you could very easily get a sense of whether or not you would want to hire him by his aesthetic, preferences. So, I say picture. People say picture is worth 1,000 words. In this case, yes, very much, and very effective. So, move on. Okay. So we talked a little bit earlier about the professional heading, and this is the only area that you'll be seeing in a search that you can actually change from the default setting. So it's customizable. So you want to think about this as almost like your headline of a newspaper. Is this really going to attract attention to people who might be looking at a number of different candidates at one time? Okay, so here's the student Sorry, I said it was JC, but it's Amelia. So if you look here in this example, student at York University, okay? You know, so she'd probably get passed over, okay? Here's another example of JC, okay? So she has research analyst actively seeking an opportunity, so that's good. I mean, it's showing your status, which is one way you can use that headline. You know, in her case, she's able to do that. She's actually with an employer at that time, but she had a good relationship, and they knew she was actively searching. So that's one of the things to keep in mind, too, is, you know, anything you put on LinkedIn is public. So if you are currently attached to an employer and working, you know, you may want to keep that in mind in terms of what kind of activities you're doing, or turn off certain broadcasts, or just connect with people with direct in-mail versus, doing certain types of searches, because people might be aware that you are actively, if your activity has kind of doubled or tripled or quadrupled, you know, someone might think you're actively looking for work, and your employer may not like that, so keep that in mind. Okay, so, okay. Here are some other examples of that first section. One of the things you can use is wingdings. Okay, in Microsoft Word you have your wingdings. You can actually copy and paste those into your headers. So in this situation here, this individual's, you know, stating his job, so Chief Operating Officer and Managing Director. And then he's making a statement in terms of his value, so building high-performance sales teams that align with corporate vision. Okay, very strong statement. So these are the types of things that you can do with your headline. Okay. So we're going to move on to profile pictures. There's a significant number of people don't have pictures on LinkedIn, but having a picture will actually increase your visibility by 63%. So it's one of those kind of emotional kind of pulls, you know, and if people can see your face, they make a judgment call whether or not they want to work with you or not. So it's really important that you choose the right picture, and I'm going to tell you how you can actually do that now. Okay, so here are some examples here. This guy, Andrew Anderson, initially I saw his picture come up, and he didn't have what the position was on his headline. It was defaulted to something else at that time, and I looked at it and I laughed, and I thought, oh gosh, I don't think I'd want to work with him. But I was curious, and I went and followed the link and realized that he was in the occupational and health and safety field. So it kind of made sense, because this is kind of what not to do type of picture. Okay. So again, people will make a judgment very quickly with your pictures. Okay, so I'm just going to move on from this. So this is going to be a really brief clip that I'm going to have you see on what not to do with a LinkedIn photo. Okay, there we go.
That's great, Nicole. And I think you're going to talk about Photo Feeler probably soon, and that was one of the other things that I used. It was interesting tool to see what people think. I actually changed my profile picture using it, and that was one of those tools that I learned from this. Just quickly before, since we wrote 5.2, I should mention If anyone's heading out of the session, we have a post survey that would help us if you would fill it out. And I will also mention that there's a research project that we're working on in the U.S. that you will likely hear from the people on my U.S. colleagues in the U.S. Please, if you can at all, take a moment and answer that survey. It will be very helpful for us to try and develop new tools and resources to help move the issues around skilled immigration in the U.S. So please look forward to that. And back to you, Nicole.
Okay, great. I apologize for running a little bit late with this, so I'll try and move ahead much more quickly now. This is Photo Feeler. It's a free site online. So in exchange for you actually ranking 10 photos that you'll see, so I'll show you here. Okay, they'll ask you to actually put a value to whether the person looks competent, is likable, or influential. You do that 10 times, and then you would have the opportunity to get your feedback come back. So in my case, I was actually going for likable with my profile. I am well aware that the sunglasses on my head and with my face kind of slightly to the side is a little coy, and not the most professional photo, but I was going for likable. But if I was going into more of a corporate setting, I definitely have to replace this LinkedIn photo. The general rule of thumb is really annually you should be looking at updating your photo on LinkedIn. Okay. So the summary is your elevator speech on LinkedIn. So what the important thing to do is that you're telling a little bit of a story about yourself. And you're outlining your goals and your call to action and your accomplishments and testimonials. It's really a space where you want to get that person to kind of feel that they understand you and that you have something in common. So a lot of people tend to, not look at that kind of emotional kind of piece when it comes to doing your elevator speech or your summary. So one of the important things is you be specific on the results that you can attain, okay? You want to avoid something that's called keyword stuffing, okay? And that is basically where you're just overloading the whole, document with, specific keywords multiple times, and it just makes it very difficult for people to read that information. The other thing, just like with your resume, you want to look at leaving some white space, make it visually appealing. And like that example I showed earlier, it's good to use headers and subheaders and wingdings and that kind of thing to break up the text a little bit like that. So really helpful things to keep in mind when you're doing your summary. So here's an example of one that I pulled off LinkedIn from a Chad McDaniel. So if I wanted to take a look at some of these things. So the first thing he does is he answers the who and the what and makes use of keywords. So he says, I'm an advocate for the social professional. So he's really making kind of a statement about himself. He is also better known as a customer experience, customer management professional. So he's really owning a brand, or, you're getting a real sense of what he stands for. He goes through to talk about, uses the customer service quite extensively through his profile. He describes his mission and goals and approach and the services offered. So he talks about his philosophies or the organizational philosophy that he serves. So our model is to serve and be an advocate for providing awareness, facilitating network opportunities, offering talent. So again, to kind of give you a real sense of what they're all about. Later on, he's talking about his specialties, and this is one of the things you can do is you can kind of set up an area where you're almost kind of charting out, keywords that are related to your specialties that help save on space and, obviously increases the number of searchable terminology that can come about. So if you look here, and he did the same here down in the specialties area. So these are, other ways of approaching your summary. Okay, so basically, like your resume, this section needs to be targeted. There needs to be a theme. You need to use relevant keywords. So you need to do the analysis of job ads, make sure that you're identifying the skills and competencies necessary, and also, even taking a look at some of the companies you're looking, what are their values that they're publicly talking about, and if you're saying common values, then you want to make some value statements in this particular area, because recruiters may also search value statements in terms of what you stand for. Okay, so LinkedIn uses there's a lot of competition on LinkedIn. It's not just job seekers. There's passive job candidates as well. So there's a tremendous number of recruiters that are online that are going to be helping you, or looking for you, but also approaching potential employees that aren't attached to an employer. So you have to realize that there's a lot of competition, so your profiles have to be complete and working for you. Okay. This is just a testimonial from a headhunter, okay? You just basically speaking to that, she's always using LinkedIn as a first step before she actually, does her short list. So if she can't find you there, or she's not liking what she sees, she's going to move on. Okay. Here is a company that's actually using algorithms to search particular keywords. I'm going to show you another example of that in a moment. So I'm just going to skip through this particular slide here and skip through this one. This is someone who's using like a PowerPoint presentation to promote himself through SlideShare. And you can also upload these kind of things to talk about or make a case for why someone might want to hire you. So you may want to go and take a look at Why Hire Me presentation by Stephen White. Okay, so these are just a spectrum of the social areas. There's obviously a lot more of these available on the internet. Okay, these are some of the ones that are ones that might be useful for someone who's an early adopter and getting involved with these to take a look at. So some of these, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, stumbled upon, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn. There's a whole variety of YouTube, WordPress, that all can be utilized very easily, that are very user-friendly. Okay, so I'm going to show you Instant. Okay, so if you go to instant.linkedinlabs.com, you'll actually see basically a field that's very similar to the algorithms that employers might be using to look for someone. So say, for instance, I'm looking for a recruiter, okay, specifically in Mississauga, okay. Did I spell it wrong? That shouldn't do that. Let me just, I don't know why that was doing that. Let me just back up a bit. Just refresh that. I shouldn't have done that. I think the page actually kind of croaked on me there. Okay. It will actually filter. Oh, it's just being slow. Okay. And I actually made some changes to my LinkedIn profile yesterday to add the keyword recruiter a little more extensively. And I actually came out second next to Paul Hill. So I improved my ranking just by making some simple changes. But this is a good way for you to kind of see who is coming up and high in the ranking. One of the things I suggest is if someone's coming up high in the ranking, you may want to go and take a look at their profiles and see what they are doing. In many cases, it may be the number of connections they have, it may be their keyword usage, it may be that they've held multiple positions that use the term recruiter. I mean, you can just do a Control F, okay, and if we just put recruiter, okay, and we'll actually be able to see how many instances comes up. Oh, it's not working for me again. It's only coming up five matches. That's strange. Anyways, there's probably another reason why he's coming up, probably because there's other social engagements he's doing online. LinkedIn has actually made some changes to make it a little bit harder for you to load a lot of keywords and still come up high, because it's trying to get rid of keywords that aren't contextualized. So if it's not really adding to what you're stating, the keyword filters might actually filter you out and drop you in a rank. So you got to be very careful not to just put them in and it's not really making sense, that they're just kind of standalone words, because it could affect your ranking. Okay. There's another app called Chat for LinkedIn that you can download onto your smartphone. So it's another area where you can kind of keep in touch with your connections on LinkedIn. Okay. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with respect to Twitter, but one of the things with LinkedIn is that you can actually default your LinkedIn. I'll just quickly show you. Just go home. Okay, is when you're doing an activity update, okay, you would type whatever you're going to share here. So okay, say this is my update. This wouldn't be the best update in the world, but anyways, you can actually right here share it public plus Twitter, okay, and public. So what you have to do is you do have to put email information in another area where you're joining your Twitter. So it means you don't have to be actually using two platforms to do your broadcast. So it's really a time saver. So if you are opening a LinkedIn account, you may want to open a Twitter account, because there tends to be different types of people that use both areas. So why not kind of throw your stone and hit two pools at once, right? So okay. Okay, so there are different ways you can actually track your progress. One of them is LinkedIn, Twitter Analytics, I mean. So you can actually see how you're doing with Twitter. There's analytics virtually with every site. LinkedIn does show you on the left-hand side how you're doing and your statistics. You get a lot more in-depth analysis if you do have a premium account, however. It's fairly limited, for individuals who are doing the free approach. WordPress is a great space for you to have an area where you can share more information about yourself. So I'm just going to show you an example just quickly here. This gentleman is using it to show his online portfolio. Okay, so you can go in there and you basically, you have all these different templates for a design. Look very much like a website. It is free. You manage all the content. You can get the analytics to see how you're doing, and you can share this information. There's actually lots of plugins that you can use as well to do different, social media streaming, that kind of thing. So WordPress is a great area for you to supplement your, what you're saying about yourself online. Okay. We use one, and particularly for our organization, New Talent to Mississauga and surrounding areas. Use this primarily to engage business and employers. So what we found was very successful is we would have bios listed of available candidates, and so there'd be really brief information about people who were available for work, and then they could contact, follow up with the contact someone from our organization, and then we could coordinate interviews. But as I said, it looks a lot like a website. We have postings, contact information, testimonials, all sorts of things. So we use it exactly as you would a website, except it's completely free. So. Okay. So these are bookmarklets. These are things that you can add on to something like WordPress, so you can actually pin articles from other sites into an area. So it just makes it a lot easier, less time consuming. Okay. Pinterest, great for any people who have like an arts background, you know, that, or, you know, you're in design, or, you know, I have a student in the class right now, and she's, you know, she already has a website, so she probably doesn't need to use Pinterest, but she's into the fashion industry, and she has a fashion web page. So like with Pinterest, you can actually pin information that you have that comes up, you know, that you want to share, and so you'd have different categories. So, you know, I pin information on resume tips and cover letter tips, and, you know, being your personal best, you know, a whole variety of categories. So there are articles, it could be video. So it's kind of like a folder online where, you know, other people can actually follow you and search. So it gives people who are following you a good idea of what you're all about, what you have to offer, what your interests are, that kind of thing. So if you have something that you do that is, even if it's recreational, it's very interesting, and it kind of supplements, you know, your personality and shows who you are, you know, having a Pinterest link, you know, could actually be a positive thing to give potential businesses more information about yourself. Okay. Okay. There is a website called Mention. Okay. Basically, you would set up algorithms where you would ask it to say, I want to see wherever Nicole Darlison's name comes up on the web, and it will send you, when you've created that alert, it will send me an email so I can go in and take a look and see if I've been mentioned. So good way, again, of tracking whether or not, you know, people are really watching and listening to you. The other feature that people may not be aware of that's available through LinkedIn is now there is LinkedIn for Outlook. Okay, so what this capability is if you look in your Outlook, there's usually situated at the bottom of your Outlook, there's an area usually reserved for photographs of your contacts. But what it can do is if you join this with your Outlook, you can actually see you know, the activity of people who are connected with you on LinkedIn. So as you're receiving the emails, you know, you can respond in real time, you know, as to what they're doing. And people might be very surprised, maybe a little shocked that you know so much about them. But anyways, this is a new feature that's available. Oops, I don't want to launch it. Sorry. Okay. The other area you might want to take a look at is called Feedly. Okay, this is an area where you can keep, you know, articles or anything that you're following in one place and categorize those. So, for instance, you know, there's a number of Sheridan College blogs. So I use Feedly where I can go in any time of the day and see what's new related to Sheridan. Okay, you can set up alerts for other different sites as well. So you just simply, if there's anything that you like to follow, organize it here. Okay. Okay. Briefly going to talk about Boolean. Okay. You may want to do a search on Google for Boolean tips, but sometimes it's easier to search for information in Google versus using the LinkedIn search area on their site, because LinkedIn actually restricts you to only first and second degree connections, or, you know, maybe sometimes you've done a search and you only see the first name and the last initial, these kind of things that can be a little bit irritating. So what you can do is very similar search in LinkedIn using Boolean operators to find who you're trying to connect with an organization. Oops. So let's just quickly. How are we doing, Stephen, for time? Is there people still engaged online?
We still have, you know, well more than half of the people that are online, so
okay.
They're more than welcome to stay on. I think there's only a few more slides anyways, isn't there?
Yep. Okay, good. So I'm just I just wrote up a quick query just to give you a sense for Boolean. So in this particular query, I'm looking for something simple. So I want to search LinkedIn profiles and identify profiles from people who can be in a position to hire me. So recruiters or yeah, primarily recruiters in the Mississauga, Brampton, or Oakville area. So this is the Boolean string. Okay, it's just a bit very basic ones. Let me just drop by Google again. Okay, if I put into Google, okay, so let me just, so you can actually see. So what I did is I identified that I'm looking for the site, okay, and the site name is linkedin.com. And the keywords I'm looking for is human resources or HR or recruiter. The reason why I put an asterisk at the end of recruiter is, you know, I should have gone back. I should have gone recruiter with and taken the ER and put the asterisks. And so what you will do is it's going to search for these particular keywords. So I'll show you the results that come back. Filter's pretty good. Okay. So now I have a list of recruiters and human resource people in Mississauga. And I can keep this information and take a look and see, you know, are these people that I want to connect with, okay? So, you know, you can kind of narrow down your field. And if you do this in LinkedIn, you tend to get a lot of other data kind of intermingled, like, you know, job postings and, you know, other mentions in articles and things like this. I find that if you're using Google with Boolean, it's a lot more specific and kind of filtered in. So, you know, Boolean's kind of an interesting area. You know, I had some people that I had worked with that had very obscure or very specialized professions, and it was really hard even identifying who their target companies would be. And if you went to any of the regular job search sites, like, you know, like a web crawler or Spider, like, you know, wowjobs.ca, and you put in a particular keyword, you would have nothing come back in terms of job postings. And what I found is if I did a detailed filter using Boolean perimeters, I came up with 50 very obscure local companies that I strategically contacted and built relationships with. And I'm not sure I would have been able to do it anywhere any other way other than using Google with Boolean search perimeters. So, you know, go in and search Boolean, and so it's spelled B-O-O-L-E-A-N, and you're going to get information that's going to be extremely helpful. So, like, you know, I'm just kind of playing around. So, like, you know, if I wanted to look for people in LinkedIn who had an interest in scuba diving, for instance, you could write it like this. So site, again, linkedin.com, in brackets, interests, colon, scuba, and I would get a different result coming back, you know, that would help you, okay? So it's kind of a really interesting, fun way. I challenge you to try it, okay? Okay. The last thing that I wanted to, or a couple of last slides that I want to talk to you a little bit about is LinkedIn University is a new feature. So this is, LinkedIn wanted to capitalize on the data that it's managed to acquire through its 200 plus, you know, million members, and the insights that are there. So they've created this LinkedIn University that you can do a search and directed to that. Actually, I think they even have a category that says university. And then you can find out about getting updates about campus news and activities from the school, engage with alumni, explore different universities and colleges worldwide. Look, one of the things I think it's most interesting for is like you can do searches to see, like, you know, I graduated with a combined double major in a specialization in anthropology, sociology, and psychology. And, you know, I didn't end up where I had envisioned myself ending up in a career, but nevertheless made a good career for myself. But, you know, today you can go and search using this particular tool and search the school that you've graduated and then the disciplinary area that you're graduating with, and you can see statistical information and links to where people found work. So it's good for finding out and choosing whether or not, if I go and take this particular, graduate in this particular area of study, did they actually find work in their field? I would say that's fairly important information to kind of distill before you're making a choice for an educational institution. Okay. Just for some people who are here in Canada or abroad, if you want to get industry information here for Canada and you want to search companies, the Industry Canada website is a great place to take a look at. There's an area called Canadian Company Capabilities. And what you can do is you can search by industry. You can search by, there's a whole bunch of specialized directories, okay? But how I have used it, or how my students have used it in particular, is if you have a particular skill set to offer the market, but you're wanting to enhance your offerings, is as newcomers, you're coming here in most cases with multiple language capabilities, and you have international experience from particular countries abroad. So with the Canadian Company Capabilities, is you can specifically narrow down companies and look at, okay, I want to deal with only companies that are looking to expand their market into Brazil, for instance. And you already have knowledge of that marketplace, you speak the language, and so you've already provided an additional incentive, in terms of approaching. So that's one of the things I recommend, using this particular area for acquiring data. Okay. This is another feature. I have a Samsung, so I'm out of luck. It doesn't work on Android, and it's under development, so it will come. But I wish I had this, because I can't tell you how many hundreds of business cards I have on my desk that I had no chance to enter into any type of database. So I'm just going to show you a really brief video on this, and you'll understand why this is such an important tool. Okay. Okay. So, this is automatically going to link their business card, to their LinkedIn profile. And, a lot of times the LinkedIn contact information, even if it's first degree, is not completely there, and you usually have to go and make a phone, ask them for their phone number and do these other kind of follow-up to kind of get a full profile. With this, it automatically imports all that data and integrates their LinkedIn information together. So beautiful tool. I'm waiting for this so I can use it. Okay, but if you don't have that, one of the other options a lot of people are using are QR codes. Okay, so basically, a QR code is basically a hybrid contact card where when you take a picture with your smart device, it will launch a mobile business card. And so your mobile business card gives you an opportunity to share a whole variety of different information. You could be sharing your contact information. It could be a link to a video that you've created. It could be links to your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn accounts, your contacts for Outlook and Gmail. You could offer download collateral that they can make use of. It's getting used everywhere. You've probably seen them on posters, but it's becoming more and more common to create an area and using a QR code on your business card. So, if you're not doing that, you may want to look at doing that for yourself. Okay. And the other thing I mentioned a little bit earlier, okay, is the LinkedIn resume. So, you just simply have to, the easiest way is to do a Google search and write LinkedIn resume, and then you download the app. You would sign in, as you see here, and it would ask you which template you want to use. You would edit that template, and then it would convert it to a PDF, and then you can share it however you like with others. So, okay. These are just some other sites if you're out of Canada that you might want to look at. Settlement.org is a great site for finding information on how to do a Canadian-style resume, applying for OHIP cards, anything that a newcomer really needs to kind of think about and consider. So this is a great site to kind of start off with. The other ones I recommend is this is called a web crawler, or also called a spider. So basically, Wow Jobs, and there's other ones like Alluda.ca as well. But basically, it will crawl through all the thousands of job sites and job boards and bring it all into one area. So it's a bit broader than, say, if you're doing a search on LinkedIn for jobs, because it's obviously pulling the information from a broader range of sites. One thing to keep in mind, though, as I'm kind of ditzing LinkedIn, in terms of comparing to Wow Jobs, is actually the figure now for 2014 is they're posting 2 million jobs monthly on LinkedIn. So the job posting feature is getting extremely large. The other thing is, if you are looking to do some research on salary information, Robert Half is a great place to look at. So there's a link here, roberthalf.com/salary-guides. Okay? Great. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Nicole. That was fantastic. I've seen many LinkedIn
I went over. I apologize to everybody.
It's all very valuable. I've seen many LinkedIn presentations, and they haven't been anywhere near as good as this, because it gets into really key important details, particularly for people that are new to the U.S. or Canada. And you talked about some Canadian-specific reference materials, and perhaps if anyone in the U.S. is looking for information related to their job search, connect with the people at Global Talent Bridge, which you can, I'll put on the next page, but again, I'll remind you about that research study that you'll hear from them. So if you're in the U.S., there's some contact information, and for those that are in Canada or immigrated into Canada, I would highly urge you to follow us on Twitter at WES Canada, because we have some other interesting webinars coming up in the next couple of months that will be very valuable for those that are in the process of coming, and many other things and tools and resources. That's the place we use to get that out there. So thank you very much, Nicole. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. And the slides will be sent out later on. And please fill out the survey. And we thank you for joining us.